Well, hello and welcome into the Splatoon 2 North American Open September 2020. We're bringing you finals action today, featuring four teams, including one of them that has been the epitome of North American competitive Splatoon greatness, and three teams looking to challenge the throne, including one squad that is retooled and focused to try and pull off the upset today. I'm your spray-by-spray host, Jordan Kenton. Joining me, two of the finest commentators in all of Inkopolis. Let's start with, she is the center of Starfish Mainstage and the head of all things Squid Sisters. Please welcome in Ashley Esqueda. And Ashley, I know you're really looking forward to what we're going to see on all these different maps today.
I am. I mean, who doesn't love a North American Open, right? I love these teams.
And then also joining us for our third box here, when he's not busy scaling the climbing walls of Muscle Forge Fitness, he's a literal encyclopedia of Splatoon competitive knowledge bursting out of every gorgeous follicle on top of that head. Please welcome in Charles, 9 Whitehead, and 9. I know you're thrilled to see how this North American meta continues to evolve.
Right. The game continues to change. If you are basing it off of what you saw the last time you saw an NA Open, you are too late, my friend. These teams continue to grow.
We have our top four teams that have battled their way out of nearly 350 participants during our qualifying rounds the previous weekend. And what's at stake? Well, of course, bragging rights for all of Inkopolis. But on top of that, each member of the winning team will get a digital download for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Tennis Aces, and ARMS. Now we take a look at our bracket here, and we see FT Win, Sayonara, Starburst, and Supernova, and 9. You're looking at four of the finest teams here, but who really stands out to you here?
Take a look right there at the top. Going for 5 consecutive North American event wins in a row. FT Win is the cream of the crop, and they have been since they started. If you want to look for Splatoon history, no team has ever dominated a scene like they've been able to do.
And Ashley, we're taking all of our action here in ranked modes, and there really isn't much margin for error because there's so much that comes down to every single decision you make as a team when it comes to these type of matches.
It really does. And that is one of my favorite things about casting these tournaments, seeing these players at the top of their game. You so rarely see unforced errors. It's just pure Splatoon at its best. And I'm excited to see what these teams bring today.
Now, our rules in both of our semifinals brackets, it'll be the best of 5 predetermined stages and modes. So you'll see a bit of a schedule that happens there. It's single elimination, so you don't have much room for error here. You really got to make sure you get out to that lead. You see how the schedule will go for game 1, 2, 3, and if possible, a 4 or 5. Splat zones, Rainmaker, Tower Control, followed by some more Splat zones and Rainmaker. And communication, Ashley, when we looked at these ranked modes, it's really vital for these teams when they get to this type of tournament play because it really is coming down to teamwork. You can't just have one superstar carry your team.
Very much so. And anybody who has played even a little bit of Splatoon knows the value of making sure that every aspect of any different mode is covered. So you've got your frontliners, your midliners, your backliners, and you're kind of all talking to each other and making sure that, those areas you don't need help. Or maybe you see somebody who may have gone a little bit too far away from their teammates and you can go ahead and get a quick pick. But yeah, communication is absolutely key. I will say, I think FT Win maybe has a little bit of an advantage there just by proxy of playing together for so long. Maybe they actually just communicate telepathically at this point. That's who knows.
And 9, we've mentioned before, some familiar teams, but also familiar faces, and consistency really seems to come to mind when you look at these players and teams. Why are these teams, why are these squads so consistent tournament after tournament?
Part of it is that they get really high-level practice because they play against each other so much in tournaments like these and in tournaments outside of these. But I think so much of it is, like Ashley said, these teams have seen it all. They have been the ones that have been writing this script from the very beginning. They've stayed ahead of the curve. But more than anything, they are so good at diagnosing what needs to be done, and it all comes down to execution at that point.
Well, you mentioned execution. Let's get ready to execute our very first match here. As we mentioned before, it's best of 5. in these semifinals. Single elimination as we get set. Our very first match will take place in Humpback Pump Track. It will be Splat Zones. And as we get that ready to roll here, Ashley, one thing that we continue to talk about when it comes to Splatoon. Splatoon 2 has been out for 3 years, and the three of us here have been friends because of Splatoon 2. And this community really just continues to shine. It's very welcoming, it's very warm, and that is really the highlight of this game and of this competitive scene, is just the way that it brings everybody together.
It really does. And I have to say, I've been playing since the original Splatoon, and every time you interact with the community, it doesn't matter if you're one of the best players in the world or you're just starting out, everyone is just so kind and so positive. And that's my favorite thing about this community.
Well, let's go ahead and get the action started here. We have FT Win taking on Sayonara early on here. We've got Splat Zones and Humpback Pump Track in 9. Why don't you walk us through a bit of the loadouts that we're seeing here?
Well, the one that immediately sticks out to me, Biscuit, the MVP of the last event, who dominated everybody with the Nautilus, is playing a custom Explosher right here. Biscuit has a deep roster of weapons, but I'll admit, this backline painting machine was not one that I thought we'd see.
We're getting a nice view of Shaq here as Shaq continues to apply a little bit of pressure. You see FT Win with the early lead right now. They have that Splat Zone, and Ashley, this is a small map. You got to make sure you get control early in this match.
Yes, you have to get control early, and also there's a lot of topography. So there's a lot of areas where you can hide, areas where you can put down a lot of ink without being hit too hard. I mean, I think you can hide a little bit, but yeah, this is a map where it gets very aggressive very, very quickly.
And 9, FT Win turning the tide. And once you can secure the zone, what are you looking to try and do at this point on Humpback Pump Track?
I think right now they're mostly going to throw bombs at the opponent, try to build up some special here to match the specials of the opponent. This is a map where if you dive in too deep, you can get taken out very, very easily. You can see Bursty right there, opting to stay around by the zone. They know exactly where the opponent's going to come from.
Sayonara now in a deficit. They're trying to reclaim the zone, trying to stack some of those specials. 4-on-4 on the field, so neither team has an advantage. Oh, but there we have it. FT Win dropping an inkling at this point. This is the opportunity for Sayonara. They can't capitalize quite yet as FT Win continues to just lock them out. And Ashley, it's securing the zone, and then at that point, changing things to more of a defensive mindset.
Yeah, and also one of the things about Splat Zones that I think is really interesting that we've all discussed is, you know, that penalty, right? You can use that as a strategy. So even if you can't quite get it, which, oh, are they going to get it?
Sayonara with a late claim of the zone in 9. We talk about this penalty in Splat Zones and how you really need to use that as your best defensive option if you're down with your back up against the wall.
Yeah, thank you for teeing that one up, Ashley.
Yeah,
You set
no
it up
problem.
perfect here. All the way now, 74 points that FT Win will have to go through in addition to 1 extra to get through here. But Jordan, we talk about composure, Sayonara understanding that they could use every single second on the clock and make their stand there. They've given themselves a new lease on life.
Yeah, not ready to say sayonara to this first game quite yet. Unbelievable claim. Yeah, you saw what I did there. Here.
Yep.
Sayonara reclaiming the Splat Zone in the middle. FT Win was just a tick of the clock away from claiming victory. But now Sayonara turning things around on FT Win. We see Bagel right here being very careful about their approach, making sure they don't expose themselves too much, but getting splatted from behind. And on a round map like this, 9, you gotta watch every single hour on the clock.
You do, and you know, Biscuit going to this weapon, I think, surprised probably everybody because it's not a weapon that we see commonly anywhere. You saw right there, I think that Bagel was taken by surprise by how much range and how accurate Biscuit was with it. Everything has really fallen off based on that pick.
1:30 left in this first game here. FT Win trying to chew into this penalty. Sayonara, we saw them claim the zone, but just 1 second left. And Sayonara doing it once again, Ashley. We see that composure. Here's a look at Bagel. Sayonara really trying to push FT Win out of the way here. And we've seen Sayonara doing a great job of being able to flip the script whenever they need to, Ashley.
They are doing an excellent job. And sometimes there is value in, as a team, just crashing in on that Splat Zone and at the very minimum, just taking away control from the other team. Maybe you don't get control, but there is still value in taking away that timer, that countdown from the other team.
Kyo trying to corral all the members of Sayonara back in spawn, and this is what you're really trying to do when you secure this zone here, 9, is you got to keep the other team back at home.
Yeah, and I love it. The way that they have shifted their attack over, they're going to lose the zone here. But one of the things we often say about FT Win, they are so good at adapting and changing mid-game. This entire time they've been waiting for Sayonara to come to them. They saw that they lost the zone twice as a result. This time they moved up and attacked or got a little bit more off of that penalty.
DJ trying to be a sneaky sneak in the corner. That's sniffed out though by FT Win, and DJ gonna get splatted. That's 3-3 on the map at this point. FT Win a chance to reclaim the zone. You see the 49-second penalty, but just 5 seconds left in the game. So as long as FT Win can hang on to it, they're gonna close out this very first game, and that'll do it. FT Win, a bit of a scare there for a moment, but doing what they do best and holding their poise to close out this first game against Sayonara. And 9, what we really saw was, once again, FT Win, it seemed like once they secured the zone, they were just really aggressive about pinning Sayonara back in their spawn.
They were very aggressive. You saw textbook baiting on that left side where Kyo went up and attacked, then he retreated, and that allowed Shaq to move up and get some hits as well. But we talked so much about that penalty and how they were going to use it. Sayo may have held the zone for just as long as FT Win, but because FT Win got it down to 1 and just applied penalty after penalty after penalty, they're going to be sitting pretty with our first win of the day.
Yeah, and Ashley, Sayonara, you really have to give them credit for not quitting when they had a chance to really drop out of this one early on. But it really seemed like for Sayonara, when they got the zone, they weren't quite able to push out FT Win, and it seemed like they were getting a little spread out there towards the end.
Yeah, and I think FT Win is so good at backing each other up. And it seems like, it always feels like we'll be watching one player from FT Win, and then all of a sudden there's just magically somebody else right there. They are so good at watching each other's backs and having a lot of spatial awareness for their own teammates, like making sure that everybody's got backup if they need it, and they just did it a little bit better.
Yeah, such a good point, because that round map in Humpback Pump Track, as you mentioned, the topography, love the geographical terms that we're throwing out here, of course. Why not get a little education
as well?
Yeah, get a little education on Sunday here. You really have to watch your back at all times, and FT Win doing a fine job of pushing things forward. As we get set for our next match here, it'll be Rainmaker on the Reef. And Rainmaker, one of those games here, 9, where it's a ranked mode that can end very quickly, and one of those where you really can't afford to make that one big mistake. You've got to be solid throughout the entire match.
Love it or hate it, Rainmaker is very dynamic. And, risk mitigation really is the name of the game for a lot of these teams. We've seen all of these players absolutely go on tears over the course of the many tournaments they've played. So it's going to be a matter of coordinating very carefully. And I'm very curious if we're going to see the Nautilus come back this game for either Bagel or for Biscuit. And it does look like both of them are bringing it out. The premier Nautilus, everybody.
Oh, the Nautilus is on the map for both squads here. You see the aerial view of both FT Win and Sayonara. And Ashley, the Reef, one of the first stages we all got familiar with when we picked up the sticks and played a little Splatoon 2 or 3 years ago. It really comes down to navigating the bridge in this.
Yeah, controlling the bridge is controlling this game. So I think Bagel is, he had the Rainmaker for a second there. Bagel's really going to have to open things up for his team. That Nautilus is going to come in very, very handy at certain points, especially on that bridge. But yeah, controlling the bridge means controlling this map.
FT Win in the yellow, Sayonara in the purple, so the team sort of flip-flop some colors here, and we're taking a look at Kyo right now. Kyo in the purple for FT Win. Never mind the graphic in the top left here. 4-4 on the field at this point. 2 specials ready to go for Sayonara. Had a quick little view of Bagel, but it's Sayonara once again with the early advantage, but 9, we know FT Win will stay nice and composed throughout this entire match.
They will, and you saw right there, using the Rainmaker to push another member of their team up to get the attack. All the way to 53, though, I'm quite impressed. There were a lot of very dangerous situations there for Sayonara. The fact that they were able to push that one aside and consolidate their position shows that they, too, know something about composure.
Sayonara trying to man the bridge at this point. They've got the Rainmaker trying to pave a way here. FT Win being cautious about their approach here. You see Bagel trying to provide a little bit of cover for that Rainmaker. The Rainmaker not just driving the ship, but also launching a few attacks of their own. And 4-3. Here's an opportunity for Sayonara to push it forward, but they lose the Rainmaker. And Ashley, now it creates a neutral situation for both teams to try and regain control.
It definitely does. And you can see here it is. Bagel doing the work with that Nautilus, absolutely going off. He's got the inkjet. He's taken out 3 members of FT Win in a very short amount of time. So Burning now has a little bit of an opportunity to take the lead.
In 9, I know you love that. Bagel erasing 75% of FT Win to really push forward and give them a huge advantage with 2:45 left.
And he's not done yet. They're going to have to be careful. DJ jumps in, but Bagel was able to escape right there. And, we talk about Bagel being the player that brought this weapon to the forefront in the North American Splatoon scene. We talked a lot about Biscuit last tournament. Bagel saying, hey, who do you think invented this weapon? Watch what I can do.
Biscuit on your right-hand side with that Nautilus. We have a nice view of Kyo just throwing out a couple of those fizzy bombs, trying to pave the way here. Aerial view, all 4 members of FT Win, Sayonara. They're back in their spawn once again. They lose an Inkling. Now it's 4-3 FT Win as they try to make their advances here. Tenta missiles evaded. A huge splat by Bursty, but Bursty and the Rainmaker going to go ahead and get popped in the chance for Sayonara to push FT Win out of their crib here, Ashley, like a bad house guest.
Oh man, Biscuit jumped in. I thought he was going to get taken out, but no, he actually escaped with the, it's that Nautilus, man. They're just, Biscuit and Bagel are just so good with that one.
Buck 45 left in this matchup here. Sayonara with the 33-53 lead. And 9, you mentioned there's always a sweet spot on each map. If you can get the Rainmaker there, you put a tremendous amount of pressure on the opposition.
You do, and right here, Bagel coming around, but wasn't able to get it. DJ was able to hold on just a little bit. This is that point of no return that you were talking about. It's going to be a short hop. Shaq not able to get there. Bit of a desperate play, and now Sayonara, I think, should have decent control of this area. Bagel might run it out here just to take some time off the clock.
You mentioned Bagel snatching up the Rainmaker, able to get it out of a very precarious situation for Sayonara. Sayonara with a sliver of a lead, 33-35. 1 minute left. 3-3 on the map, but Sayonara getting splatted. And you see Biscuit with the inkjet applying the pressure. Ashley, a chance here for FT Win to snatch the lead, which they do.
Man, that's heartbreaking for Sayonara. I mean, they were really holding it so well. And just, it just takes that one inkjet. It just takes one bomb to change everything.
And you hear it, 9. One mistake is all it takes. You can have control for the entire game, but all it takes is one slip up, and now you find yourself with your back up against the ropes.
Yeah, and Bagel grabbing that Rainmaker earlier that really led to all of this. It seemed like they weren't entirely sure what they were going to do with the Rainmaker once they moved it out. And that entire time, FT Win was building their specials, and we saw the inkjet that opened it up and got them that big push. And right now, it's all FT Win. Look at all this map control. Yeah,
you mentioned it, 9. Sayonara had the Rainmaker sitting there right in front of them. FT Win able to close things out, a near wipe of Sayonara, and they'll go ahead and claim their second game over Sayonara, just 1 game away from advancing to grand finals. And it was a late push by FT Win to go ahead and capture the victory in this one. But 9 pointing out, Sayonara, you're doing a great job defensively. Sure, the Rainmaker's in a spot that's a little too close, but they burst it, and it's looking as tempting as cold pizza in the morning. But if you grab it, it's not the best decision.
Wonder where that one came from. Thank you for that, Jordan. But one thing that I really want to point out there for those who were looking at the stat sheet, Biscuit on the Nautilus had 7 inkjets. Bagel had 1 inkjet. They're playing the same weapon. Maybe the build is a little different, but I think that tells you the way that the 2 teams use their Nautilus. Bagel, he's going up and fighting. He's trying to open things up for the team. Biscuit is waiting for the team, using his inkjet to open up the pushes, and on both the push that got them the lead and that push that shut it down at the end, it was his inkjet. And it's just so fun to see how 2 of the same weapon can be played so differently.
And Ashley, that's such a great point 9 brings up about the specials, because when you look for moments to turn the tide in a particular game, it really comes down to when you utilize those specials. And we saw that firsthand in this last game here.
Yeah, I mean, FT Win, for any team to take down FT Win, you cannot make a mistake, right? This team has been playing together for so long. They're so good at capitalizing on unforced errors that you've got to come with a game plan. And I think, 9 really mentioned it. There was a moment where they weren't really sure what was going on. It seemed like they were unsure, or they weren't exactly, in formation the way that they wanted. And yeah, it just, FT Win will just take advantage of that. And specials were a big part of it.
They certainly will. So we have tower control and anchovy games. And one thing that stands out to you on this map here, Ashley, are those rising platforms and the way that they can really differentiate your team's approach.
They definitely do. Again, elevation, such a big deal on this map. If you can really kind of utilize those platforms in a way that will, take out the opposite team, you're sitting pretty, especially at these checkpoints. This is like an important thing for the checkpoints. And they're already past the first checkpoint.
FT Win clearing that first checkpoint in 9. When you look at tower control at this level of play, you've mentioned that for the support player, it really relies a lot upon what they can do and how dynamic they can be in tower control.
Right, and you see Bursty there. He's going to be the one that's riding the tower as he gets taken out. But you saw right there, he wasn't just sitting on the tower in Inkling form and waiting for somebody to come to him. He was throwing bombs, he was building special, continuing to call out where the opponents are coming from. Oftentimes in this mode, the support player's put in a bad spot because somebody has to ride the tower. It's all about contributing in situations where it's not so straightforward.
Sayonara just letting that tower reset to neutral and then rethinking their game plan. They have a 4-3 advantage, 2 specials ready to go. We see Bagel with that inkjet once again, trying to poke some holes in the defensive approach of FT Win. And now Sayonara approaches the first checkpoint as you see those Tenta missiles coming out. Ashley, those Tenta missiles, we see them more and more again in tower control because of what they can do in every facet of this ranked mode.
Yeah, it's a great way to clear the tower, right? You don't want a bunch of missiles hitting you while you're on the tower riding it. So you get off the tower, you want to stay alive. And it's also a great way to clear a little bit of space for people and get your teammates just a little tiny bit of runway.
Ashley's life tips: avoid missiles. That is a great fact of life you want to stick with right there.
True.
All right, FT Win. They've got the tower once again. They've got 34 left before the victory. They're 1 game away from moving on to grand finals. No surprise for them. Sayonara trying to hold on and have one of those classic comebacks that they've been so well known for, but it is all FT Win at this point. Biscuit in the inkjet trying to sniff out a member of Sayonara. Just so much pressure, but 9 splatted in midair by that Nautilus.
Splatted in midair, and immediately the punishment comes through. Look at this, it's just burning all the way back. We talk so much about it. You're never just fighting one member of FT Win. You take out one member there, and then immediately someone is there to punish you for daring to touch your teammate. Look at this, Bursty trying to get through this checkpoint. Shaq is still there. Another jump comes in with a splashdown, and they are a hop, skip, and a jump away. It looks like they've defended for now, but guys, FT Win never missing a beat. It's insane.
Such a good point. The complete wipe by Sayonara will send the tower back, but FT Win doing what they need to do. A huge advantage with just under 2 minutes left here on Anchovy Games. Sayonara not ready to say game over yet, but it's FT Win that is doing what they're so well known to do, and that's just apply the consistent pressure. And Ashley, when you have a lead this big, if you're FT Win, you now have the option to really focus defensively.
You do, and I would say now's the time because Sayonara has 3 specials ready to go and 1 that just went off. So now's the time if you want to defend. And fortunately, FT went pretty good at it. So although Biscuit just got taken out of the sky, so well done, Sayonara.
Burning with 2 beautiful picks as they get set to push through their first checkpoint, but here comes all the pressure from Sayonara. They're trying to defend against FT Win. They get through the checkpoint, making their way to the second one here. Bagel trying to pave the way with the Nautilus. Close to 1 minute left. Bagel with the inkjet trying to pick off Biscuit, and Biscuit trying to hang in there, but Biscuit falls off the map in 9. Here's a chance for Sayonara to apply some more pressure.
It is. Bursty up at the top of your screen is going to have the best chance to do something about this. He does get one. Sun went after him to chase. This checkpoint is going to be where they make their defense. And look at FT Win. They have all stacked themselves up at the top of the screen, understanding that they can throw bombs, do anything necessary to get them off. And look at that. No progress made on the checkpoint. They almost need an entire other push at this point.
Such a good point. FT Win getting the higher ground. All 4 of them just aggressive, clearing the tower. And now with 23 seconds left, Sayonara has to do everything they possibly can just to remain alive in this tournament. FT Win trying to close this out and move on to grand finals. 13 seconds left. FT wins, still with a sizable advantage. Tower is moving for Sayonara. You have 3 members and 2 specials on the field for FT win. Here come a couple of suction bombs. Burning, trying to get back on. It's an avalanche of bombs, explosions, and ink. And here comes the splashdown for the punctuation mark. And FT win will close things out. And Ashley, just the onslaught at the end, all the purple ink just filling your screen as FT win was not going to give Sayonara a chance to have a comeback in this one.
Not at all. I mean, that was just a wall of purple ink there. I mean, it's just a wall. Like it is so difficult. One, it's just hard enough to make that push in overtime on tower control. Making any push in overtime is so difficult. And man, FT win was just like, no, thank you. We're just going to stop you right here. Like, nope. And they just did it. I mean, it flawlessly. They executed flawlessly.
And 9, it's really that third checkpoint that you pointed out Sayonara couldn't really make any progress on. And that was the difference for FT win. They were able to push through that checkpoint, nearly get the knockout. And when you get to that point and the action's so fast and so furious, what do you have to keep in mind to really try and make those pivotal plays that give you the advantage like we saw FT win claim?
Well, something we didn't really talk about, you hit on it at the end there, Jordan, suction bombs. Always a suction bomb. 3 of the members of FT Win had suction bombs on their weapons, and particularly for Bursty, who played that support role, his job was to put a bomb on the tower at all times, so if nothing else, you know that nobody is on the tower. At that point, you decipher where they're attacking from, you move in, you execute, and you get yourself in the grand finals for the 5th consecutive tournament.
FT win getting out the brooms 3-0. They move to the grand finals. Let's take a look at the updated bracket here. Kudos to Sayonara. They put up a couple of great matches, but you see why FT win has been the class of North American competitive Splatoon. Up next, we'll have our best of 5 semifinals between Starburst and Supernova. And so a couple of squads here, 9, that you really like and admire, and some exciting changes and a bit of freshness to both these squads here.
Freshness is the best word. So I'll go ahead and say it. Starburst, for those of you who watched last time, this is Hanron, but with the deck shuffled a bit. These are very, very strong players. You've got Ice, you've got Bran, you've got Ant. And I think that these are players that a lot of people at home are familiar with if they followed this scene. A lot of star power. I'm really looking forward, no pun intended with Starburst, by the way, to see how they match up against another star team, Supernova.
Hey, you can always have puns here, 9. We love our puns when it comes to this. It wouldn't be a Splatoon 2 cast if we didn't have our puns here. All right, Ashley, it looks like we're going to get set here. We're going to have splat zones on Humpback Pump Track once again. And you use that great word, our word of the day, topography of Humpback Pump Track. But really, it seems like when you are securing the zone and you're trying to keep the other team out, this is a difficult map because there's so many different points that you can leave your spawn to get into the field of play. It's almost like you have too many bases to cover if you're trying to hold the other team out.
Yeah, there's just enough space to where you can't cover everywhere with your team, right? So there's always a lane that's open. There's always some point of entry for your opponent to get in and flank you, either from the sides or around sort of that inner lower level. And it is a map. One of my favorite things about this map is how fast you can move around it. And it's so fun to see how quickly these teams can traverse one side of the map to the other, take out somebody, get to another side of the map, and continue to just dominate. So we saw that from FT Win in that very first game. And I just love that about Humpback Pump Track. It is a map where you can move very, very quickly and get to where you need to be.
Getting set for our second semifinal here between Starburst and Supernova. And 9, we mentioned real quickly here before we get to the action, the role of a backliner. I want to ask you more about that because we're going to take a quick break right now and get set for a semifinal action. But when we return, 9 is going to give you some great knowledge about a backliner in Humpback Pump Track.